and it looked like the Indiana Fever front office is caught red-handed, lying to reporters.
Nonsense is false hope to get people to keep showing up, keep buying tickets. They got us content creators waiting and hoping, hey, they said she might be, this is the empty time. This is the time for practice that she might return.
It's officially a mess because not only is there not more clarity, there's more confusion about what her timeline could be.
It began as whispers in the corners of press conferences, but now the noise is impossible to ignore. Caitlin Clark's injury isn't just a setback. It has become a defining scandal of the WNBA season. Fans expected honesty, clarity, and reassurance from the Indiana Fever. Instead, they got smoke and mirrors. Stephanie White, the head coach, stepped onto media's stage with calm confidence, but every word only added fuel to a fire she couldn't control. The supposed timeline of Clark's recovery unraveled in real time, leaving fans with more questions than answers, and trust hanging by a thread. The announcement was supposed to settle nerves. White claimed Clark was close to returning, even telling ESPN that practice could resume soon. But when the open portion of practice came, Caitlin was nowhere to be found. Cameras showed the truth, silence, absence, and a coach left scrambling for explanations. White brushed it off, calling it status quo. Yet the damage was already done. The public saw the contradiction, the lie hiding in plain sight. Once fans realized the story didn't add up, the trust in both White and the Fever front office began to collapse overnight.
Trying to come back and come back quickly. She needs to make sure that she's 100%. Her competitor wants to play. We're prioritizing her long-term health and wellness is the most important thing.
As bad as it might sound, I think it might be like a season-ending level type of injury, and they're hoping to get in the playoffs and they can somehow get her during the playoffs.
Confusion wasn't just an accident. It became the strategy. First, Clark was day-to-day, then suddenly out indefinitely. Reporters hinted at her possible return, while White shifted the narrative at every turn. Natasha Howard teased a "see you soon," sparking hope that fans clung to. Yet each new update only contradicted the last. The instability wasn't just sloppy, it felt calculated. For fans who invested their hearts, their money, and their time, the endless contradictions felt like betrayal. The more the Fever tried to smooth things over, the more the situation spiraled into one of the WNBA's biggest credibility crises. And then came the receipts. Social media erupted with footage from Phoenix on August 7th, the very day the Fever claimed Clark was injured. There she was, strolling effortlessly, Prada bag slung over her shoulder, not a limp in sight. The image went viral, not because of the luxury handbag, but because it exposed the lie. If Clark was supposedly sidelined, why did she look fine in public just hours later? Fans didn't need medical degrees. They needed only their eyes. The footage destroyed the neat little timeline, exposing White's words as a fabricated cover-up collapsing under scrutiny.
And there's further information coming out that Clark suffered a bit of an ankle injury in the midst of her recovery process. Did that hinder her return? One reporter saying yes, another reporter is saying no. Bottom line is, we need to know a little bit more. We don't need Caitlin Clark's in-depth medical report, but it's fair for fans to wonder if the Fever and the league's biggest star is going to return to the floor this season or what the chances are.
Instead of retreating and admitting mistakes, the Fever doubled down. Reporters whisper about a mysterious ankle setback during recovery, but even those stories contradicted one another. Was it serious? Was it minor? No one knew, and the front office wasn't giving real answers. The silence was deafening. 5 weeks passed, and still no sign of Caitlin Clark on the floor. Fans who had shown patience felt strung along, clinging to hope that evaporated each time the team released another misleading update. What should have been a straightforward medical recovery had turned into a tangled web of deceit, frustration, and suspicion. But speculation turned darker. Some began to believe this wasn't just about delays, it was about damage. The whispers grew louder. Maybe Clark's injury was far more severe than the team admitted. Maybe the rush to bring her back aggravated the issue, pushing the timeline further into uncertainty. Analysts suggested it could even be season-ending. Yet instead of transparency, the Fever fed fan hollow lines about long-term wellness. The competitor inside Clark wanted to play, but the mishandling risked her entire career. What fans saw wasn't just incompetence, it was negligence. The stakes weren't games anymore. They were her future.
There you see it. Caitlin Clark on the sidelines, not practicing. not practicing at all. It's done, you guys. It's over. It's over. We just have to accept the fact there will be no more Caitlin Clark this season. It is what it is. It is a wrap.
As if things weren't bad enough, the coverage of the injury veered into the absurd. Reporters like Scott Agnes, tasked with delivering professionalism, laughed while recounting Clark's supposed misfortune. This wasn't nervous laughter. It was mockery. Fans were appalled. How could anyone find humor in the injury of the league's brightest star? The reaction wasn't just unprofessional. It was insulting. Agnes became the embodiment of a media core more interested in protecting the Fever's narrative than defending the truth. The line between journalism and propaganda blurred, leaving fans wondering who they could trust and who was simply cashing a paycheck. This fiasco grew worse with each update. Clark's groin injury, initially downplayed, shifted categories like a mirage. Day to day, out indefinitely. Game time decision, out again. The contradictions piled up, each new update discrediting the last. ESPN even circled August 12th as her supposed return date. Yet practice footage revealed the opposite. Clark hadn't even been participating. Fans were no longer confused. They were furious. The pattern was undeniable. The Fever weren't miscommunicating. They were lying. False hope became a sales tactic, keeping fans glued, ticket sales flowing, and media distracted. What started as a recovery timeline had transformed into a theater of deceit. For supporters who waited and believed, the final straw came when Clark was seen courtside. Again, not practicing. No drills. No progress. Just waiting. For many, the realization hit like a gut punch. This wasn't about recovery. This was about control. The Fever weren't preparing Caitlin for a triumphant return. They were stringing along the fan base, desperate to preserve optimism. But fans weren't blind. They saw the pattern, and they began to accept the harsh reality. Caitlin Clark's season was over. The anger shifted from disappointment to outrage as supporters accused the Fever of sabotaging the very star who kept them alive. And then the puzzle pieces started falling into place. Remember the infamous game where assistant coach Brianna January stepped directly on Caitlin Clark's foot? That accident wasn't forgotten. Fans connected the dots. First a foot stomp, then the suspicious timelines, then the silence. Was it a freak mishap or reckless negligence? Either way, the coaching staff bore responsibility. Yet instead of accountability, the story was buried under White's polished lies. The contradiction became glaring. Did Clark get hurt in a workout, or was it during a game incident with her own coach? The truth was lost, buried beneath deception and spin. Clark herself became a pawn in the narrative. Each time she addressed the media, her words felt manufactured, like a script crafted by interns. Working hard, feeling good, just unlucky. The same recycled phrases repeated like a broken record. Fans who once trusted every word now saw a facade. This wasn't Caitlin speaking. This was damage control. The tragedy wasn't just her absence from the court. It was her forced silence. The most electrifying player in women's basketball was being muzzled. Her voice reduced to cliches. Her authenticity buried beneath a corporate shield designed to protect the very people who betrayed her. Fans, however, weren't fooled. They remembered August footage. They remembered January's stomp. They remembered every contradiction, every laugh, every suspicious twist in the story. The narrative wasn't dissolving. It was hardening. A clear picture emerged. Caitlin Clark, the league's golden star, was being mismanaged, mishandled, and mistreated. In another league, this would have sparked outrage. In the NBA, such negligence would mean investigations, firings, and endless coverage. But in the WNBA, silence. The league's most valuable player was left unprotected, sacrificed on the altar of incompetence. And fans knew it. They saw the truth, and they weren't going to forget. Scott Agnes, once seen as a credible reporter, became a symbol of failure. Instead of holding the Fever accountable, he parroted their lies. Worse, he did it with a grin. His credibility evaporated in seconds. Fans demanded boycotts, accusing him of siding with the front office over the truth. The reaction was swift, brutal, and unforgiving. No one respected a reporter who looked gleeful while spreading misinformation about a player's pain. In choosing loyalty to the Fever's PR machine, Agnes sacrifices standing with fans. And when trust breaks that quickly, there's no repairing it. The fallout was total. For Stephanie White, the fallout was even greater. She positioned herself at the center of the lie, thinking she could shield herself behind carefully chosen words and compliant reporters. But fans weren't the same as decades ago. Social media gave them power, memory, and evidence. Every contradiction, every slip, every hole in her story was documented, shared, and dissected. What she thought would fade into obscurity became fuel for outrage. She underestimated the intelligence of fans who had followed Clark since Iowa. White wasn't controlling the narrative anymore. She was trapped in it, and each denial only made it worse. The scandal grew legs of its own. Theories spread online that the Fever wanted to tone Caitlyn down. She arrived as a generational force, selling out arenas, smashing viewership records, and shaking the foundations of the WNBA. But suddenly, the narrative shifted. She wasn't strong enough. She needed more muscle. She wasn't ready. Fans questioned whether this campaign was designed to dim her light, to mold her into something smaller, less disruptive. Clark's accelerated strength program, many argued, wasn't protection. It was sabotage. Too much, too fast, and predictable injury followed. For fans, this wasn't misfortune. It was malpractice masquerading as coaching. In the absence of truth, conspiracy thrived. Fans even suggested Clark should return to Iowa doctors, seeking real evaluations from people who had her best interests at heart. The Fever's medical staff, once expected to protect their franchise player, were now viewed with suspicion. If the front office lied about how and when she was hurt, what else were they hiding? The severity? The risks? The long-term consequences? These questions echoed across forums, podcasts, and broadcasts. With no straight answers coming from the team, speculation wasn't just inevitable, it was justified. And the silence spoke louder than any press release could. When the truth finally emerges, Stephanie White and her media allies will face a reckoning. The receipts are already stacked. Footage of Phoenix, the Prada bag stroll, January stomp, laughing reporters, contradictory updates. Together, they form a damning case. White didn't just mislead the public. She insulted them, believing fans were too naive to notice. But 2025 isn't the era of blind trust. It's the age of documentation, of receipts, of viral accountability. And when the moment comes, the collapse of the Fever's narrative will be swift, brutal, and unforgettable. White will have no defense, only regret carved into her legacy. Meanwhile, fans feel the emotional toll. They watch Clark endure targeting from defenders, neglect from referees, and now betrayal from her own team. Imagine dedicating your life to a sport, carrying its weight on your shoulders, only to be treated like an expendable pawn. Clark isn't just a rookie anymore. She's a phenomenon. Yet instead of being uplifted, she's dragged down by incompetence, smothered by lies. Fans feel the pain as their hero suffers in silence. The fury isn't just about injury. It's about injustice. The greatest star the WNBA has ever seen is being dimmed before her time. The WNBA itself isn't immune from this scandal. For years, the league has fought for growth, legitimacy, and respect. Caitlyn Clark gave them a gift: instant stardom, surging attendance, unprecedented ratings. Yet her own team squandered it. The Fever's dishonesty wasn't just a blow to their credibility. It stained the league. Casual fans who tuned in for Clark now see amateur hour deception, reporters complicit in cover-ups, and a golden star hidden behind smoke. This isn't just bad PR, it's sabotage of the league's future. And if the Fever don't course correct, the WNBA risks losing more than Clark. It risks its momentum. Caitlyn Clark herself isn't blind. She knows the timelines don't align, the spin doesn't add up. But what can she do? Calling out her own coach would risk her reputation, painting her as difficult or ungrateful. So she plays along, trapped in a PR web she didn't spin. The tragedy is deeper than missed games. It's the silencing of a voice. Clark, the most outspoken, charismatic star in women's basketball, is forced into silence while her story is rewritten around her. The saddest part? Fans know it. They hear the rehearsed lines, see the forced smiles, and feel the cage closing in. The Fever's lies lit a fire under Caitlyn's fans, turning disappointment into defiance. Every shady move, every contradiction, every mishandled update only amplified their loyalty. They aren't backing down. Instead, they're louder, angrier, and more united than ever. Stephanie White thought lies would buy time. Instead, they bought outrage. Now, every word she speaks, every press conference she holds, is scrutinized like never before. she has lost the benefit of the doubt. And with national outlets sniffing around, the scandal is primed to explode beyond Indiana, dragging the Fever's reputation to the mud on a national stage. The WNBA needed Caitlin Clark to thrive, not suffer under incompetence. She wasn't just a player, she was the golden goose. Remove her from the floor, and ticket sales plummet. Ratings drop, momentum stalls. The Fever's mishandling didn't just hurt one team. It damaged the league's most valuable asset. And when fans realize this wasn't bad luck, but avoidable mismanagement, the backlash will be monumental. White's instant regret isn't just for lying to cameras. It's for torching the foundation of the very league Clark built. The WNBA deserved better. Caitlin Clark deserved better. And fans won't stop until they see justice.